Hi there, folks. Welcome to another episode of the A Minute to Midnight show. I'm Tony and I'm coming to you from New Zealand. And with me today is someone who I haven't had on the show for a while, but she's been on a few times over the years and I've always learned a lot, and that is Lynette Zang. So, Lynette, welcome back to the A Minute to Midnight show.
Well, I'm very happy to be here, Tony. You know I love you.
Yeah, and I've always, like I said, enjoyed our conversations, and I know quite often we cover a lot of different angles and kind of do it like a bit of a, kind of around the gamut of things a bit. And our listeners, I guess a lot of them know who you are, and a lot of them go, some of them have been actually saying to me, it's time you got Lynette Zang back on, But then there are other people that don't probably, so maybe you can just tell people who you are and what you do, and then we'll run into what we want to talk about.
Absolutely, because Tony, I have been groomed for this moment in time and have been in these markets on all different levels, as a banker, as a stockbroker, as a gold broker. But I'd say that the most important time, and I'm coming back to New Zealand here shortly, that has a very special place in my heart, because as a stockbroker with Shearson, I started studying about currencies simply because, and I can't tell you how because I don't really remember, but I stumbled across non-dollar denominated bonds, which are just bonds that are issued in different currencies. But the bonds that I fell in love with were New Zealand bonds. And that's what led me to study currencies and then ultimately see the patterns that happen, like a human ages and has a life cycle. Well, guess what? So do currencies. So my personal focus and a real specialty of mine is understanding currencies and currency life cycles. And that the first time I started in that, or when I started in that, I should say, was 1987. So
yes, a bad year. A bad year or a good year, depending on which way you want to look at it when it comes to currencies and things.
I was there on Black Monday as a new stockbroker. I was about a year in, so it was the best day that I could have ever been a stockbroker because of everything that happened. And that was also the kickoff to globalization and all the discussions around that, which I remember thinking, I can see a few problems with this. But also, had I not stumbled across that, I don't know that I would know any more about what's happening to the inflation and currencies and the new system that we're setting up, had I not studied that, because it happens in slow time and there's a level of distance. Like, people can recognize, I'm going to be 72 this year, and I know this is just audio, but I'm pretty much thinking that I can guarantee you that if you looked at me, you were not going to think that I might be 12 next year like my granddaughter's going to be. At the other side of that, you're not going to look at her at 11 and think, maybe next year she's going to be 72 or 73. And it's just because we've grown up watching people age in real time. And so we recognize what that looks like. But the reality is that currencies are the same thing. They have a life cycle. And if you can just learn to see what those patterns are, well, then you have a much better idea of where we are in this trend cycle. And therefore, timing is always the biggest challenge. But if you know where we are in the life cycle, then you can judge what is the next most likely outcome. And I think that's critically important, especially where we are today, which is at the very end. And I don't say that lightly or happily. I don't say that happily at all. And we're transitioning into a new system. And if you're not prepared for it and you're not paying attention, well, it's going to be challenging.
As somebody looking at all the pieces going on at the moment, and obviously the really big thing at the moment is the war in the Middle East. And,
Mhm.
I'm a firm believer in nothing's happened by accident, and the
Mhm.
timing of things is for a reason. And
Mhm.
as they're looking to transition us away from the old world order into the new world order, which J.D. Vance actually spoke of not that long ago, using the term multiple times, New World Order, which is just
Mhm.
the same as we've heard from lots of other presidents like George Bush Sr. and so on. And I think they probably thought they'd have us closer to it back then than they do. And so now they're having a big push to destroy the old system and bring in a new one. That's how I see it. And the war in the Middle East is being used to do that and shape it. It's kind of like COVID version 2. It's just it's not a
Mhm.
pandemic. It's the next thing that they're using. So, I mean, there'll be a lot of people, when you're looking at markets and things, a lot of skepticism from people. And let's be frank, even, looking at silver and gold right now, it's on the short term, it's on a downward cycle again at the moment. And people could go, oh, see, what was the point? I should have sold out when silver was $120 or whatever. And
Mhm.
now it's all going downhill again, or it's following the stock market. And, like silver's down again today from what it was, and so on. And it's like, how do you convince people to hold on for the long term when that type of thing is happening?
Well, that's the thing, Tony. How many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? And so, if people stay at a surface level, then what they're doing is believing Wall Street and they're believing the lie on the way up or on the way down. Because what you're really looking at are contracts, trading contracts. You are not looking at supply and demand dynamics. And I don't care what it is you're looking at, whether you're looking at gold and silver, or you are looking at stocks or bonds or real estate, or take your pick. You can be looking at absolutely anything. And the reality is, yep, there was a time many years ago where you could get good price discovery from Wall Street. But they started, meaning the Wall Street traders started on a trek in the 70s when we went to a pure debt system. And now, and this is true, everything is just a contract. And you know how you just referred to it as gold and silver?
Yeah.
What were you actually really referring to?
Yeah, is it the spot price versus what's actually happening in the real world with physical? And I was going to ask you about that. Like, say, for example, at the comics, with contracts, are they being rolled over or are people taking delivery by and large at the moment?
Yeah. Well, right now they're definitely being rolled over, and they've created all of these additional tools. Like there was something that just came up on Bloomberg, which when I'm getting ready for my day, I have that on so I can grab things. And plus, I just finished a piece on the doom loops. And really, ETFs are used to push prices up or pull prices down. So when you say that, Anne, I want to kind of finish that other thought when you're sitting there referring to gold and to silver, that helps. I don't mean to offend you.
Yeah, no, no,
Because it's
no, go
not a
for
gold,
it.
but what that really is, what you're doing is you're supporting Wall Street's lie instead of saying, well, this is the spot gold contract, the spot silver contract. You're just referring to both of them as gold and silver. And as everybody can clearly see, and it goes to your question about delivery as well, that there's a huge premium between those paper spot contracts and delivery on the physical metal itself. And guess what? There's different, not only is there short term different pricing to like a huge, like a 15% premium above the spot contract on the Shanghai exchange. But even that does not really reflect the true value, the fundamental value of an ounce of gold or of an ounce of silver. And if you really don't know how much anything is worth, not just gold and silver, but stocks, bonds, the very currency that you work for, and that you use as your tool of barter, that you attempt to save for your future use, whether it's for retirement or educating your children or whatever you're going to use it for, how do you even know how much anything is worth? You're going to believe these flippin' liars? I worked in the belly of the beast. And I'm telling you, I went to Shearson because they had the best training program on the street. What they taught you how to do was sell the sizzle, not the meat, because the meat, the nutrition, that's for those at the top. The sizzle is for the public. That's just the right size to collapse because there's nothing an individual can do. Now, having said that, Tony, I am on a major quest in this world to create community globally. And that's a big reason why I travel, is to meet people from all around the world because we all want the same thing. But it's also local community so that you can create surety in food, water, energy, security, barterability, which for me is primarily silver, but not exclusively, wealth preservation, which for me is primarily gold, but not exclusively. Community has become arguably the single most important thing that I talk about these days, as well as shelter, a place to make your last stand. It is so critically important that people come together and start having these conversations, and they help support each other, because everybody has a talent and a gift that they can bring in and share. And together, we only need 3% of the global population. We don't need 100%. We don't need 99% or even 50%. It was a vocal 3% that started the Revolutionary War, and we are already in the revolution. So a lot of my travel is about hopefully getting people to join that revolution so that we can ultimately, and I don't mean 20 years down the road because we're already in that transition, but as they've, unfortunately, this, we've talked about it before. I believe that what we have in our reasonably near future is a hyperinflationary depression. And we will shift into a new financial system. And it should be obvious to everybody that that's already underway. But do you want to have a say in the new system? I do. I want redeemable gold in that system so that if I do not like what I see the government or the central bankers doing, I can ask them to send me my gold. Because what gold in the monetary system does is it forces fiscal responsibility. Do governments want fiscal responsibility? Heck no. Nor do they want you to hold on to your wealth. They want to transfer it their way, and we can stop them just by converting their garbage fiat that by design inflates away the value. So I don't care. You're looking at a stock market go up or down or sideways, and bond market and all of that, or crypto markets. If you can only convert that asset into the local currency, that regardless of how high they will push it through inflation, guess what, my friend? The true value of those assets is whatever the true value of that currency is. And according to the Federal Reserve, it's a big fat zero. And that's true for all currencies, not just the dollar. It's the Aussie dollar, the New Zealand dollar, the euro, the yen. They're all man-made money, and man-made money disappears and goes away. Gold, physical silver, those are the only money that's actually created from man, and from God, and man can't control it. Why? This is not rocket science either. It sure isn't because I say so. But I recently did a count, and what I came up with, Tony, is that there are, on a global basis, in every sector of the global economy, there are 33, and I'm not saying this is all. There may be more that I don't know of, but there are 33 direct users of physical gold and 36 direct physical users of silver, not contracts, but the real stuff because they have properties that nobody's been able to duplicate in a lab. So when you're looking at stocks, bonds, cryptos, cash, checking account, all that stuff, it's used in one place. So if demand goes away in the one place, like we've seen happen, then it goes to zero because there's no demand. But with gold and silver, you have so much demand on a global basis, which is why when we were still on the gold standard, you have ebbs and flows in a normal economic cycle, not booms and busts where the winners and the losers are chosen. That's a fiat money system. I want to get rid of that. That's my personal goal. Huge.
So what is, in a hyperinflationary depression, what exactly does that look like, or what do you think it's going to look like? What will it look like in terms of the stocks, and what will it look like in terms of prices of everyday things, and what will it look like for gold and silver? How do you see it playing out?
Well, unfortunately, the way that, I've got over 4,800 cases of data to match this again. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I could tell you exactly what that looks like. And the stock market, I think we've already started, and I know there could be some corrections in here, but I believe we are entering what's called the melt up phase of this. And especially the stock markets implode, we're going to get a whole lot more money printing by the central banks on a global basis. And that will push the price and the cost of everything in terms of dollars up exponentially. So you're going to see stock markets boom, crypto markets boom, because that's what they want to put us into. And so they're going to do whatever they can to make these things go up so people look at them and think they can be protected in there, when really what that is a Trojan horse. And it just, when the stock market implodes and they say, no, like we've got a lot of companies right now that are limiting withdrawals. Nope, you can't get your money out. Who are you going to call? Nobody. There's nobody to call. There's nobody to complain to. You're just done. And, I think it's critically important that people understand that during these transitions, on average, 80% of the population is in abject poverty. Now, I didn't say 100%. And that's the whole point of becoming your own central banker and laying in sound money gold and sound money silver, having it in your possession, because that is historically the only way that you could fully prevent that. But food is the single biggest issue for most people as we go through these transitions, because we've been taught away from being food independent, and we go to the grocery store and we count on the food in the grocery store. But I think, COVID wasn't that long ago, and I think people can understand and maybe remember how those shelves went barren. So local community, to make sure that you can always eat and feed your family, and you have water and you can take care of what you need to with water, grow stuff, sanitation yourself, you need to hydrate, etc. Local community can help sustain a reasonable standard of living, but you better not be counting on those that are in power. Because I don't know, Tony, have you seen them do anything that is truly in the public's best interest?
No, definitely not. And that's the thing. People think, if you just change political parties and get a new leader and it'll be like something different, but it's not. Everything still trends in the same direction towards global governance. That's, everywhere.
And, it's interesting that you said that, because as the world has been, quote unquote, deglobalizing, so the supply chains have been deglobalizing and going more local, but the financial system has not. It's been integrating more and more and more. So to your point, look over here, don't look over here. But a hyperinflationary depression is not a pleasant thing to live through, and people panic and they don't have enough food and water and all of those things. So the time to get ready for that is now. I will also say that as the loss of confidence in those that are in power and the money supply, rapid inflation destroys that level of confidence. So as that confidence goes away, globally on average, those overnight revaluations typically happen 3 times. So this is a prolonged period of time, and you need to be prepared to weather that storm. And I've been preparing for this seriously since 2008 because Shearson was my alma mater. And so when that went, I was paying attention. When Shearson went out, I 100% at that point knew the system was dead. It was killed. And it was just put on life support. And then you have the crypto Trojan horses that came in, and they've gotten plenty of adoption. But that is really about enslavement. That's not about freedom. You want freedom? Truly be outside of the system. Because I've noticed that people that have decided to marry this, they have blinders on. And they only see what they want to see. And so even if that is really what you think is 100%, everything is hunky-dory, properly diversify yourself with some gold so that that wealth that you've managed to accumulate in that space doesn't just go away. Because during those overnight revaluations, all of those stocks in the bond, it goes straight down in terms of currencies because those revaluations, I don't know exactly what level they're going to call for yet, but Venezuela has done 6 of them and the revaluation overnight's been 99%. That's pretty nasty to wake up in the morning and find out that everything that you've worked for is gone, although they like to do these things on the weekend, and there's not one thing you can do about it.
Well, that's the other side of this. Like you mentioned, slavery. See, I see that's what they're trying to do here is with everything and AI and all of that, and which we'll get to in a minute, is part of. They want everyone forced into the system with everyone being able to be identified biometrically and facial identity and all of that to even participate in any way, shape or form in the system. I see that is what they're trying to get us towards.
Yep. So that's the battle. And that's why what I do is so important. So that's why I work so hard on creating that global community, because I don't just want this country to be gold backed and not gold backed. It is redeemable. And I really need to push this and stress this hard, because what did Zimbabwe do? They put in a gold backed system that was April. In October, they did an overnight revaluation of 44%. And now they're forcing local businesses to only accept the ZIG gold that they want to call it. And it's garbage, because what they're doing is, which is what they're all doing, forcing their fiat money that they control down our throats until it has absolutely no value. Then what are you going to do when you're on that social scoring system? Because it's not just facial recognition, et cetera. It's even greater money control than they have right now.
And see, with this, they're also bringing more and more AI into the workforce, and more people are losing their jobs. People that thought, if we have a tech job or something, we'll be set for life. But it's like a lot of those are going because AI is doing the job for them. So, more and more people are going to be out of work.
There are so many things with that. We just released it, did a piece on that Citrini thought study that they did, talking about how AI would take over all those jobs, as you were just mentioning. And the whole world came out and said, you're overblowing it. You're this and that and the other thing. Except that we already started to see that unfold, job losses due to AI last October. And right after the Citrini came out with the article, and then the world came out and said, "Oh, you're just overblown. That's never going to happen." Well, this morning, it's Monday here in the States, but Meta just recently announced 20% layoff because they want to put that money into AI.
Yeah.
So if you haven't read the Citrini piece, it was pretty interesting. And I think it was hysterical that they got so much pushback on how that was not possibly going to happen, as it's already happening.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
How many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth?
And the other thing is they're building these massive data centers everywhere. I just saw an article the other day. They're going to be building a huge one in New Zealand down the bottom of the South Island. Is going to be the second largest user of electricity after the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter, or you'd call it aluminum. And so this data place is going to be using more power than anything other than that aluminium smelter in the whole country. So that's, to me, it's like, oh, and they tout this as a good thing. Well, but it's basically just more and more part of the control grid that they're erecting. So it's difficult to see how this is going to play out well in terms of people's freedom and people's jobs and that type of thing.
Let me tell you, if you're depending upon somebody else to be protecting your freedom and to protect your jobs and protect your ability to get food and water, because these data centers don't just eat up all the energy, they also eat up all of the water. Yeah. So that has an impact, both of those. They have very deep pockets. So what do? They bribe the politicians. This is, and so whoever is going to grease those skids, they're going to get what they need. And then the public just has to pay for it. So how much have your energy costs gone up, even in the discussion of these data centers?
Yeah, true.
Not just the data centers. And that's why water is the second thing. You guys are surrounded by water, but we also know, what is it, the something Darling Basin in Australia, the main water source for Australia, that's drying up. It's already having a problem, like the Colorado River is here in the US. And here where I am in Arizona, I'm in the middle of a desert. So water is critical. Maybe if you're on an island, it doesn't seem as critical because they can, take the salt out of the water to use it. But there are so many things. And you also mentioned about AI. And the other day I was watching this ad on, on television while I was working, and it was for some kind of company that does something like tasers or something like that.
Yeah.
And usually I'm working, so I'm just kind of listening to what's going on. And I happened to look up and I went, there's something about this commercial that just doesn't quite look right to me. And so I did an AI search on it with this particular company. And I said, are these real actors or is this AI generated? And of course it came back and it said, oh, that's such a good eye. You're going to see that more and more and more. Blah, 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 blah. They blur the lines between reality and what they want you to think. And if people just take AI at face value, then what they're going to do is they're just going to spit out a whole bunch of misinformation so that this is called perception management. It makes the current perception management program that has been formally in place since President Ronald Reagan introduced Hubert Murdoch to the US and changed laws. It gives them a lot more power, and especially to the younger people. I can see good on both. I mean, there's some great things that AI can do, but I can also see how it can really harm people, especially younger people. I mean, they can just be trained as little robots. This stuff is powerful. It knows how you think. It knows It can follow your logic and take you in a direction and then just spin it. And people are losing the ability for critical thinking. And it's like, I'm old. I think I'm 71. I think I'll be 72 this year. And I've lived a very long time, and I've studied, and I'm constantly researching. So if I'm using AI and it tells me something, most of the time, I mean, if it's inaccurate, I'm going to know it because that's where I've lived my whole life. But is a kid coming up that has no clue and hasn't had or in their 40s or what have you, they just don't have the same kind of experience. And if they get misinformation, are they going to know? Probably not.
Well, there is a whole raft of AI everywhere, and now YouTube's a real classic example of so many videos are AI, and it's hard at times to determine what is truth and what isn't on a lot of things, and that's by design too, I believe. And I mean, just off the top of my head, here's, on YouTube, just with talking silver and gold, you've got this Asian guy, AG, zillion different incarnations of the same looking one, and then trying to figure out, then they're competing and saying, we're the real one. And another one saying, this is the real one. And, it's like, what's going on here? I don't think that's any accident either. So people are trying to find out what's actually the truth. And it's being blurred.
Yeah. That's such a good point. In fact, it was Jason, the chef, the corporate chef. He's like, yeah, I'm listening to this very boring Asian guy, but boy, he sounds an awful lot like you, Lynette. And I said, well, who are you talking about? Because I'll get those questions on the live that I do every Tuesday anyway. Yeah. And so he showed it to me, and I looked at him and I said, you do realize that that's AI.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize it. And he's a pretty bright guy. So if you recognize it, that's one thing. But these are being done. And I don't think a lot of people that are watching or listening realizes that this is all AI.
Yeah, that's right. Totally, absolutely. Okay, so just changing direction a little bit here. Now, at one point, if we're talking silver and gold, because I want to get to that for a bit, like you were at one point talking about numismatics being the way to go. Are you still holding that, or is it diversification between bullion and numismatic type of stuff? What should people do if they're trying to get into getting silver and gold at the moment? What direction should they go with it?
Well, I will say that everybody needs to do what they're comfortable doing. No, personally, I don't believe in bullion. I was born during a period of time where it was illegal to own more than 5 ounces of gold any other way than the collectible way. And I saw that with my Uncle Al in 1964, how he was sitting on at least 3,000 ounces of gold in pre-1933 form. That is definitely the way that I personally go. Plus, again, it's critically important to understand the true fundamental value of any asset. So since I'm crystal clear that if they were to do that overnight revaluation tonight, that would more than likely push spot to like 40 grand. It's like my insurance policy to make sure that I can keep it. And additionally, they typically do outperform those spot markets, which are really, quite honestly, well, they're a lie, number one, and they're breaking down, and it's all about a trade. In the physical world, no, I personally do not buy any monetary gold. So I don't buy any bullion or any new stuff at all, because it's kind of hard for me to imagine when they are constantly trying to manipulate you to do what they want, that perception management, that they would stop at the very last second and go, you know what? We got enough of your wealth. You can just keep that gold. Yeah, I don't think that's real. So I prefer the category to the guys that write the laws or have the ability to influence those that write the laws. That's the category that I want. that's the collectible category. So that's all that I personally do.
So
but everybody to do what they're comfortable with.
So what about junks, what they call junk silver, which isn't really junk, but, like the old dollar, dollars
Dimes,
and Morgan dollars and stuff like that. Is that a good option?
100 bazillion percent. That is a great option. A dime, these are all coins minted prior to 1965. So 64 and earlier are 90% silver. And it's not exactly, but it's easiest just to kind of think of the fact that a dime is roughly a tenth of an ounce. A quarter is roughly a quarter of an ounce. A $50 is roughly a half an ounce, and a silver dollar is roughly an ounce. Those are all 90% silver. And that's why I say roughly, because it doesn't matter if you get that specific. But personally, I love it because you want to have all different sizes of silver, and you want to have different sizes of gold as well. And you want some that are collectible. It's the right tool for the job. So you want to, like at Zang International, we start with your goals because that's what we use to support your efforts and say, okay, well, you want to make sure that you can always pay your property taxes. This is what you need for that. And this is how much. Oh, you want to make sure you can buy the strawberries when you go to the store? Well, this is what you need for that. And this is how much. And we use the fundamental value to kind of look a bit into the future and determine how much of it you really need for when we are in that hyperinflationary depression.
So you're talking to largely an American audience there now. Obviously, the lion's share of our audience is American, but there's also a lot of people from all sorts of other countries that listen. Yeah. And so the American pre-64 stuff is not necessarily available that easily. But so people need to also know if you're in New Zealand or England, you want to go pre-1920 crowns and half crowns and florins and those types of things, which were 92.5%.
Right.
But we didn't go as far as 64, you see. So people need to know that you can't get a 1963 coin from New Zealand or England or whatever and think that it's going to be 92.5% silver, because 1920 is when it changed, and then they only went to 50%, and then 46, I think, or 48, I think it might be 48. They went, all the silver went out of them entirely here. So so it's kind of depends on where people are, but it's the same basic principle, right?
I think, Tony, you make a really, really important point, because I'd like everybody to realize that gold and silver in any form is monetary at its base. And so if you have, Aunt Bessie's sterling silver flatware and it's marked sterling, well, that's 92.5% pure. Or if you have a sterling, a Mexican silver bracelet and it's marked 925, that is 92.5% pure. And it can be 10 carats, 14 carats, 18 carats, or 22 carats for gold. And it doesn't matter if any of this stuff is bent or broken or tarnished or whatever. So there really are all different ways that anybody can accumulate gold and silver, and you need to be perfectly honest. You really better do it. Get it done.
So if people want your help with that, they can get in touch with you, can they?
Oh, they sure can. And in fact, I love our number. It's 833 GLDZANG, or I'll translate that. But it's 833-453-9264. And we are very happy to help put these things together so that you know what to do wherever you are. But I'm going to say also community, get that community built.
What's your website as well? So in case people just want.
Well, the website is Zang International. And you can follow us on X at the Lynette Zang, all other channels. So YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's at Zang, INTL. And that's pretty much it. I'm all
Okay.
over the place, and we're happy to be of help because we really are working very hard on making a positive difference in this world.
Okay, so if you wanted to, anything else you want to share before you go offline from me, if there's anything important that you think you could add that maybe we've missed out on, I had a few more questions which I didn't get to, but I won't worry about it. So, yeah, have you got
Well,
anything to add just before we close up?
I I would really encourage people if they've been kind of thinking or they're kind of feeling uncomfortable to get it done. Get your community in place, become your own central banker just by converting your garbage fiat that we all know we're going to inflation ain't dead because it's part of the current system. So just convert that garbage fiat into gold and silver, but really get out there and build that local community and join Citizens for Sound Money. This is a global movement to demand redeemable gold back in the system again. We don't have any choice. We have to do this, and the time is now.
So how do people find that one? Find
We're all over it on our website. So if you come to our website, and you can also just put in C4SM and for an additional website, and you can find that there as well.
Awesome. Well, I think there's been a lot of really good food for thought in this discussion, and I'm very pleased that we had it. So thank you so much for being with me again today, Lynette.
Anytime, Tony. We've been doing this for a long time together, so I'm very happy to be here with you.
Yeah, me too. I definitely would love to do it again soon, especially now because everything's really coming to a head now.
Yep. Absolutely.
In every direction. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Cheers. Folks, don't forget also our website is aminutemidnight.com. Please make sure you subscribe to us. Go down the right-hand side of the page where it says subscribe to blog if you want to get notified of our shows and articles and so on. And we do run A Minute to Midnight 100% by donations. That's it, just donations. If anyone wants to help us, it's always appreciated. And you can do that at our website, aminutemidnight.com. And the music used I've written, played and recorded. God bless, God willing, we'll be back with another episode very soon.